name is American McGee, and I'm the CEO and founder of Spicy Horse Games in Shanghai, China. I got my start 20 years ago back in id Software, worked on things like Doom, Doom 2, Quake, Quake 2, and then spent some years at Electronic Arts where I did a game called Alice, which we just recently did a sequel to 12 years on, called Alice Madness Returns. These days we're doing a bunch of free-to-play online, social, cross-platform titles, and so at E3 this year showing off 3 of those games that we're going to be launching in 2012. So back at the beginning of 2012, we transitioned away from the console space when we finished the Alice project. We got investment money, we took some of our own financing, and then basically put up a production pipeline where we could have somebody playing on an iPhone against somebody on an Android, against somebody in a web browser on the Mac or PC, all simultaneous, all real time, and all shared profiles across all those platforms. So that part for us has been really kind of interesting and exciting to have to think about all the back-end tools that are necessary for, managing the servers, but also for taking in all the data from the games, and of course presenting a different type of UI across all the different platforms, and then thinking about player psychology when it comes to purchasing items. So it's been a lot of being very open to listening to what other people are doing, and trying to learn as we go. And so actually for the studio as a whole, things feel really healthy and really happy these days, because everybody's really thrown themselves into this new model and learned a lot, and now built this really awesome platform that enables us to build that kind of content very, very rapidly. I'm not one of those that's going to go out there and say the console is dead or the AAA games are dead or anything like that. I mean, I think there's always going to be a space, just like you see in the film world, for really large budget and sort of AAA, quadruple A, whatever, wherever it goes. But I do think that we're heading towards a period which is going to be really interesting, where we start to plug our console controllers into our mobile devices, whether it's a tablet or a phone. So I kind of see that over time we're going to get to a point where we're going to question as gamers why we would tie our content to something that's stuck in our living room, right? We're going to want to be able to go off and play it on a small screen here and a big screen there. Again, it sort of starts to make me wonder, why would I want to be locked in my living room for that? If I've got that kind of display technology, which is actually pretty straightforward, combined with the controller, combined with mobile content, that to me feels like the future. What I saw when I first started going to China was that the West was outsourcing all of their content production to these massive, outsourced studios in China, and so you had this pool of people, extremely talented, who've already been working on Western games for years, and yet in the environments where they're working, they don't really have a lot of creative control, they don't have a lot of say over what the productions are about, and so we've not only offering them a chance to work in a very creative environment, but also a very healthy environment. And I thought, if we do that, we're going to get really talented people. And in fact, we've been able to collect together some of the best artists and programmers and producers, not only from China, but from around the world. So the energy there is fantastic, and there's just this sense of optimism and pace there that's really feeding into all the stuff that we're doing. And it's been a great time. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I do think that the next 5 years we're going to see what a development studio looks like being very, very different from what it's been like for the last 20 years. I think that the AAA going into quadruple A studios are going to be radically different by way of what they have to do to streamline production around the budgets and the size and the expectation of the quality. Right now, the cost to build a giant game like that, there's this bottleneck in terms of content production and wrangling. So I think that that's one kind of studio of the future. I think the kind of things that we're doing, we're able to have a smaller studio environment, much more agile development process, and it's a completely different market and a different way of going about production. But I think what we're going to see is that no matter where you are and what kind of games you're making, there's a lot of technology coming online these days that's radically changing how we develop, and then also how we push that content out. It's really funny. I don't think it's really changed at all. That's the thing that's really exciting about today. So for the last 20 years, I don't think we've actually seen that much by way of change. And what we're seeing right now is a repeating of the cycle that we saw 25 years ago of 2D to 2.5D to 3D. So now we're seeing that same model starting all over again, with the difference of there being social, ubiquitous networking, total connectedness, and downloadable content, which we didn't have 20 years ago. And I think what happened 20 years ago was that the publishers, the box retail guys, they saw we can own a supply chain. We can limit people's access and make it so we own the shelf space, we own the distribution. Well, what's happening now is a sort of rebooting of the same sort of progression of the types of games we're playing and the same progression of the technology and the mobile devices, but now it's free. Now anybody can do it anywhere, anytime. So I think this is going to be a period that finally, in the last 20 years, we're really going to start to see some properly radical changes. And it all has to do with the fact that these devices now exist, that we can, you know, $300 have a console in your pocket, and developers anywhere in the world on any device can be building content. And so that's going to, I think, drive some really interesting changes.